All right. Beibut, Bernard, you guys have received your instructions in the dressing room. Obey my commands at all times. Protect yourselves at all times. Anything from here down is going to be considered low. Anything from here down is going to be considered low. Gentlemen, let's get this thing on.
All right, this telecast being broadcast on AFN, the American Forces Network. We welcome in the nearly 1 million men and women of the U.S. Army, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, and Marines stationed around the globe in 175 countries and on the high seas. We're proud to have you with us from the Armory in Washington, D.C. Thank you for all that you do.
That is some interesting body language for both these men, leaning forward. You know, Shumenov said he watched a lot of video of Bernard Hopkins and said, I see something and I see a couple things that I think will allow me to beat Bernard Hopkins. We'll see if he really does.
IBF champ Hopkins in the burgundy, gold, and white. Redskins color, of course, colors here in Washington. Shumenov in the black with gold. And, you know, Hopkins mentioned Gorgeous George in an interview with Jim Gray earlier on Show Extreme as they exchanged jabs. And I guess it's only right that I mentioned pro wrestling icon Ric Flair, who I'm sure gave out a big woo when he heard Hopkins' entrance theme.
Shumenov is a very active fighter, throwing well over almost 60 punches around normally. But Bernard Hopkins turns volume fighters into fighters that don't throw many punches. And so far, Shumenov not throwing too many.
One minute gone in the opening round. Here's another crazy statistic. Hopkins has had 30 previous world title fights, twice as many as Beibut Shumenov's 15 total fights coming into this contest.
And now B-Hop has that look on his face as if he's figured something out. We'll have to see.
Well, this is the exact pace that Bernard Hopkins loves. Very slow.
As we reach the midway point of the opening round, and while there is a lull in the action, we want to let our viewers know, as Shumenov going to work with the jab, that Paulie Malignaggi has been taken to hospital for a precautionary measures for an examination. So we'll keep you apprised of the situation as Paulie Malignaggi is en route to hospital here in Washington, D.C., following his 4th round TKO loss against welterweight champion Shawn Porter. And we wish our colleague the best. 1 minute gone, or excuse me, 1 minute left in what has been a cautionary start. But like you said, Al, this is how the elder statesman of the sweet science, Bernard Hopkins, likes it.
You remember college basketball in the old days, the four-corner offense down in North Carolina? That's what Bernard Hopkins plays.
Shumenov trying to attack Hopkins with the jab, leaning in. Hopkins now in familiar territory, and referee consciously uncouples the two warriors. Has that entered the lexicon since Gwyneth Paltrow and Chris Martin broke up?
Well,
I guess it just did.
Well put, and a good pop culture reference.
I try. Final 10 seconds of the opening round. So as we finish up the opening 3 minutes, here's what Al Bernstein thinks both of these athletes have to do to unify the titles.
Well, for Bernard Hopkins, I think he wants Shumenov to feel early on that there's something he sees in there that he can't handle. Controlling the pace, he certainly did that. It was a slow pace. Hasn't had a chance to really throw that left hook yet. We'll see if he gets that punch going during the course of this fight. Now, as for Shumenov, you don't want to let a 49-year-old coast. Well, you let him coast for the whole first round. He's got to be busier. And Hopkins will always find ways to take your mind off things and ruin your game plan. He can't be distracted. And the right hand by Shumenov is a punch I think he can land if he throws it against Hopkins.
The bell and round number 2. From the Armory in Washington, D.C., Mauro Ranallo, along with Hall of Famer Al Bernstein and guest analyst Daniel Jacobs filling in for Pauline Malignaggi. And Shumenov again on the attack.
Break. Don't punch. Break. No, don't punch.
Already some awkward action Earl Brown has to deal with on the inside. You know, Hopkins was at his weight 2 weeks ago and came in several pounds under the 175-pound limit. And he told us in all these years, he's never had a nutritionalist, which I think is kind of interesting.
He's definitely a disciplined man, even down to health and nutrition. That's the key. In a fighter's meeting, he discussed that, this discipline in life in general.
Hopkins misses with that wild right hand.
To say this has been tactical so far would be an understatement. And again, that's the kind of pace that Hopkins is trying to create.
Other champions in their 40s in the sweet science include George Foreman, Virgil Hill, Bob Fitzsimmons, Vitaly Klitschko, the active Guillermo Jones, Sugarboy Malinga, and of course the great Archie Moore, who reigned until 48. I would be remiss if we talk about combat sports and champions if I did not mention Randy the Natural Couture, who had great success in his late 40s, becoming UFC heavyweight champion. Midway point of round 2. Right hand by Hopkins, countered with a right hand from Shumenov, who was very composed, not being swallowed up by the magnitude of the moment, facing an icon in Bernard Hopkins, looking to establish himself as a force to be reckoned with in the light heavyweight division. His only loss came against Gabriel Campillo in his 9th professional bout. He avenged that in becoming the light heavyweight champion quicker than anyone in his 10th pro bout, albeit a controversial decision against the hard-luck Campillo.
Yeah, Campillo, many people believe he really won that fight, but whatever the case, Shumenov got the decision and, of course, is a champion in the ring against Hopkins.
So, Daniel, this is the pace that Hopkins loves. What can Shumenov do, or what should he do to try to change things up?
Well, definitely one thing that he has an advantage over Bernard Hopkins is the jab and his reach, and he's not using that. He should pick it up a little bit more if he wants to at least win this fight and win rounds.
He has a 5-inch reach advantage over Bernard Hopkins.
All right.
And
look at Shumenov playing some mind games, winding up maybe with a bullet punch. Sorry, Al, as we will close out the second round. He is not intimidated in the least by the reputation of Bernard Hopkins.
Nice and relaxed. Nice and relaxed. You're finding your spot, I see it. Just I can't have him hustling you while you're doing it. So I'm saying we can't give up too much while you find your rhythm. And trust me, that you already found it. You just got to trust it. Don't look so big. Don't look so big.
And remember, there's Stitch Duran, who is a great cut man.
Preeminent cut man.
Yeah, and a great boxing mind, but there is no trainer here.
No.
He is thinking through, and nobody's talking. He's thinking about, what will I do next?
Right. I wonder what happens if he faces adversity. Who would he go to for a second opinion?
He will look inside Daniel. Daniel-san. Round 3 begins. A tactical, methodical start to this light heavyweight unification bout. Of course, the other champions, Sergey Kovalev and Adonis Superman Stevenson, will be making his Showtime debut May 24th from Montreal. What Las Vegas is to the United States, Montreal has some of the best boxing fans in the world, Al, and they come out in full force.
They do indeed, and it has become a great hotbed for boxing. Both men starting to now get a little more accurate with their punches and landing a few more.
Shumenov telling us he fell in love with boxing after watching Mike Tyson fights. Of course, Iron Mike returning to Showtime last night for an edition of Showbox, tweeting earlier his support of our Mr. Boxopedia, Steve Farhood. And now the jab becoming the focal point for Shumenov. Hopkins feinting, trying to solve Shumenov here in round number 3.
both guys seems to be still on the edge. They haven't really figured out how to figure the game plan out and reach and land at will. So it still seems to be a puzzle they both need to figure out.
As controlled as this pace is, Shumenov, there's the nice overhand right from Hopkins. Shumenov has thrown about 40 more punches than Hopkins, though according to show stats, he's only landed one more.
Jab to the midsection by Hopkins. It's like a jousting contest here. Two fencers going at it.
And even though these rounds are close, you can't help but think that Shumenov is playing into Hopkins' hands by allowing this to be such a slow pace.
Final 60 seconds of what has been a methodical third round. Now Hopkins delivers the right uppercut, goes downstairs with a left hook, then the up jab. Jab by Hopkins. Oh, Shumenov eats that crisp jab from the alien. 30 seconds left in the third. Winding down round 3 here at the Armory in Washington, D.C. Bernnard Hopkins, Beibut Shumenov, as Shumenov catches him with a right hand.
Here's where Shumenov will land a punch, not a legal punch, but then he pauses.
We saw Hopkins do that to Karl Murat.
Exactly, and here comes Hopkins with the overhand right. He's distracted. You can't get distracted against Hopkins. And later on, Hopkins walking to his right, throwing a jab and then a straight right hand. He is winning the battle of, I think, the mind so far. Most championship rounds, Hopkins has passed Hilario Zapata already. He is in third place. Of course, the great Emil Griffith with the most championship rounds at 339. Featherweight Abe Patel just behind him.
Yeah, so Hopkins starting the night tied with the legendary Julio Cesar Chavez, but I mean the story continues to unfold for a man who's continuing to defy Father Time. 49-year-old Bernnard Hopkins, 30-year-old Beibut Shumenov, each of them looking to unify the light heavyweight championships and set up a potential showdown for the winner of the Adonis Stevenson, Andrew Fonfara fight coming up May 24th in Montreal, which you can see right here on Showtime. Daniel, we've passed the 1/4 mark of this fight scheduled for 12, and Shumenov getting busier, and Hopkins countering with the right hand. Give us your assessment of what you've seen thus far.
Well, I believe this is all Bernnard Hopkins' round at the moment. Even though Shumenov is picking up the pace, Bernnard Hopkins is landing the smoother, cleaner, effective punches.
Counter right hand by Hopkins.
And you know, I mentioned that Shumenov's only fought 2.5 rounds since June of 2012. I think there's some ring rust in there on him. I think that's part of the issue. Part of it is also Hopkins' ring generalship.
After setting the record for most middleweight title defenses with 20, of course, icon Joe Louis holds a record for all weight classes heavyweight with 25. Hopkins in his second life as a light heavyweight has really become known more as a defensive maestro and stinting puncher, and really adjusting his style for longevity. There's Shumenov tagging Hopkins with a right hand as we look at the show stats. Hopkins swimming in and catching Shumenov very close here, Al.
Yeah, and clearly, you know, more activity for Shumenov, and the question then is, you know, those are the show stat numbers for what's landed in their view. And it's interesting now, things are heating up, and you know, Hopkins told us that against Karl Murat, he was in more of a firefight than he ever expected. Now maybe one is starting.
And I think he knew that he needed to almost get into something of a firefight to keep the fans entertained. He knows what fans nowadays want. And Daniel, whether you agree with it or not, it is the sweet science. You want to, you know, hit and not get hit, but it is the entertainment business as well.
Oh, absolutely. And he mentioned that in the fighters meeting. He understands his position and what he's looking at in his career at the moment. He understands what he has to do.
Under 30 seconds left in the fourth round. Hopkins sticking out his tongue and just drawing the ire and the attack from Shumenov. Always playing the mind games.
Classic Bernard Hopkins.
A ring general, non-parallel.
That finally a combination from Shumenov. That's what he needs to do. He's not throwing any combinations. If he's going to win this fight, he's going to have to throw more of those.
We are through 4 rounds in the nation's capital.
Bernard Hopkins landing a counter right hand as Shumenov comes in squared up against him. And then there would be another right hand. He feints, as he often does, and there's a lead right hand that will get in. And, you know, I thought the left hook was going to be his big punch. It's been the right hand, and this is the distraction. You know, Bernard Hopkins looking for any way to get him off his game. Danny Garcia, and that's Angel Garcia. They were royally entertained by that, weren't they?
Double your chain up. He overcommitting.
Brother Nazim Richardson in the corner of Bernard Hopkins, his longtime trainer, the accolade of the legendary late great Bowie Fischer, who was Hopkins' trainer back in the day. I mean, Hopkins surviving everybody in this sport.
Break. Let him go. Let him go.
The last 6 opponents of Hopkins, how about this? Their combined record 161-5-2. So that's a pretty interesting statistic as well.
Indeed.
You know, they talked about Nazim. Oh, nice hook by Shumenov. Nazim Richardson worked with Shumenov briefly some time ago, and he said he worked with him for a week or so and just could not mesh with Shumenov, and he thinks Shumenov, he called him spoiled.
Yeah, when Shumenov got to Las Vegas in 2007, he also worked with Mike McCollum, who worked on his fundamentals, the jab, and a guy known as the body snatcher. Yeah, he probably showed him a few body punches as well, but he's worked with Kenny Adams, but he says he just likes to observe and internalize all the information, and he feels he doesn't need a trainer. And this is a guy who has trained in various forms of martial arts, karate, taekwondo, eats that right hand, and a couple of lefts from Hopkins. So a phenomenal athlete, Beibut Shumenov. And maybe in another life he would have been a mixed martial artist, and has told us that after boxing he might try his hand at MMA. Minute 45 left in the 5th. Talking about a second act, Arsenio Hall, talk show host, with the tweet, men over 40 feeling good watching a B-Hop. You could say that again.
Yeah, it gives hope, doesn't it?
Good to hear from Arsenio Hall. And we hope you're enjoying the action wherever you may be watching on Showtime as Hopkins launches another right hand to the head of Shumenov.
And it seems to me as if Shumenov was hurt off that right hand.
Tactically, this fight is a nightmare for Beibut Shumenov. He has allowed it to be fought exactly the way Hopkins wants it to be fought.
And for me, that's where the inexperience is. I believe Bernard Hopkins is fighting his fight. Shumenov can't figure him out, but he's fighting. He's giving it his all in there, but B-Hop is just controlling the pace.
Hopkins misses with the lead left hook, then sticks the jab in Shumenov's midsection.
Well, the problem is Beibut Shumenov at his best is a volume puncher. He is nothing like that tonight. There is not a lot of volume coming from him.
Agreed.
We make a lot of what Bernard Hopkins has accomplished, but former heavyweight champion Larry Holmes came back in 52 to fight Sideshow Attraction Butterbean, and of course Sal Mamby fought at the age of 60 out.
Believe it or not, I announced that fight.
Hopkins again closing in on Shumenov as they clinch.
No punch. Let him go. Fight.
5 rounds have elapsed here between Hopkins and Shumenov with a flurry to end the round.
See the ice being applied by Stitch Duran, and there was a right hand that may have added to that issue. Nice straight lead right hand by Hopkins. That's been his signature punch in this fight, and we'll take a look at yet another look at it. The left hand very low of Shumenov, and just Hopkins taking what's given to him, which is easily a lead right hand. You talk about a 49-year-old getting in a lead right hand against you, so not good defense. If good a 49-year-old as he is, to allow him to land lead right hands like that, not a good sign.
Stitch Duran referred to Shumenov as the Bruce Lee of boxing. I don't think Bruce Lee ever got hit like that. Sixth round underway here in Washington, D.C. Mauro Ranallo along with Al Bernstein, guest analyst Daniel Jacobs, Brian Kenny, Jim Gray, and the rest of the Showtime Sports crew. If you are wondering about Paulie Malignaggi's status, we will endeavor to give you an update again. Our colleague losing via fourth-round TKO against Sean Porter in the last fight, being sent to hospital for precautionary measures.
You know what's interesting? Shumenov, Hopkins coming forward now, and Shumenov kind of wanting him to do that, even though Hopkins is landing when he comes forward. So could that create at least a situation where Shumenov will be able to land something? We'll see. Shumenov's been talking to Hopkins, but not landing much.
Oh, counter right cross there by Hopkins. Minute gone in the sixth as they do a little dance in the center of the ring, and referee Earl Brown stepping in immediately. Shumenov wanting to use that reach advantage, but unable to land the jab as Hopkins now utilizing some footwork, staying at distance. Is there anything, Daniel, that you can see that would allow Shumenov to get a little closer effectively against a guy like Bihar?
Well, the first thing is he has to keep his left hand a little bit higher. It's too low, and when he throws the jab, he kind of bends it before he actually telegraphs it, actually. So Bernard Hopkins is able to easily counter and get the shot. Excuse me.
Yeah, and the left hook, which is a good power punch for Shumenov, he has delivered that punch very badly in this fight when he's thrown it.
Coming up on 1 minute remaining in the sixth. There's a nice right hand to the side of Hopkins' head by Shumenov. Hopkins going downstairs with a jab. There's a straight right connects by Hopkins. Another right hand. So Hopkins pot-shotting. There's a 1-2 combination. Now Hopkins putting on a show, switching stances momentarily. Fires off the piston-like right hand.
Swelling around that left eye of Beibut Shumenov, courtesy of the right hands of Bernard Hopkins. See, there Shumenov puts a little bit of pressure on. He's just going to have to do that. And, he has not gone to the body, I don't think, at all in this fight.
No. But even when he's inside, where he might feel a little bit comfortable, his arms are long, and it's taken forever for him to get the shot. And Bernard is moving, he's swift. He's a craftsman in there.
And Shumenov doesn't really want to be on the inside. He needs to use that reach and land big punches.
Coming up in 2 weeks, Showtime Sports brings you all the action leading up to the moment. Check this out.
The moment is coming when pound-for-pound king Floyd Mayweather will put it all on the line against power puncher Marcos Maidana, and Showtime brings you exclusive access to Fight Week. On Friday, May 2nd, get a front row seat for the official weigh-in, including superstars Floyd Mayweather, Marcos Maidana, Amir Khan, and Adrian Broner. Then stay tuned for a special all-access live from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Join our broadcast team for an unprecedented live face-to-face Q&A session with Mayweather and Maidana, plus all the Fight Week drama. And on Saturday, May 3rd, our broadcast team counts down to Mayweather versus Maidana live from Las Vegas with an hour of exclusive interviews, features, and breaking news. Don't miss the Mayweather vs. Maidana live block Friday, May 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and Mayweather vs. Maidana Countdown Live Saturday, May 3rd, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, only on Showtime.
Looking forward to that big weekend, not just that fight, but also the wonderful undercard that includes Amir Khan, Louis Collazo in a welterweight matchup I'm very anxious to see.
Stacked pay-per-view lineup, 4 fights coming your way May 3rd from the MGM Grand in Las Vegas. Right now we're watching the beginning of the second half of this light heavyweight title unification bout between Bernnard Hopkins and Beibut Shumenov. And through the first half of the fight, you look at Beibut Shumenov's mannerisms, his tactics. You wonder if maybe it would behoove him to have a trainer, Daniel.
I think he might he might need to think about that after this fight.
Well, you know, the scoring's going to be interesting. I think we'll take a look and see our unofficial scoring, and I guess we're all fairly close. Steve and Daniel have it closer than I do. Steve, you have it the closest of any of us. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Al, the first 3 rounds, I mean, you can score that any way you want. I think you and I both scored the first round, even there were virtually no punches of note that were landed. And the second and third, you could flip a coin. So I think that's probably explains any difference in the card.
Yeah,
Hopkins is in charge now.
I agree 100%.
Nice counter right hand by Hopkins.
You know what's interesting here is the meaningful punches are being landed by Bernnard Hopkins. The ones that matter and the ones that are clear for the most part.
Lead right again. Tags Shumenov as they clinch. 1.5 minutes left in the 7th. Shumenov with the jab, but a better counter jab by Hopkins. More power behind it. Shumenov walking down Hopkins. Hopkins turning the tables, and now they grapple. And again, Shumenov trains in Greco-Roman wrestling, and so Hopkins, who's known for clinch work, better be careful.
Well, you know, this has just been a very unaggressive fight by Beibut Shumenov. He's just not been engaged enough to do what he needs to do in this fight.
Nice jab by Hopkins. Utilizing the real estate of the ring now, Daniel. Just really in full control, allowed to do whatever he wants.
He's controlling the pace. I mean, this is all Bernnard Hopkins. Ever since the 3rd round, it's been all Bernnard Hopkins. He's found a home with that right hand, and he's landed in at will.
Another counter jab by Hopkins, and again, he's most comfortable being that quintessential counter puncher out.
Yeah, he is more than happy. And when he decides to initiate the action, he's able to land with the jabs and the lead right hands as well.
Okay, boxing smart. I want to turn it up. I want to turn it up. Boxing smart. My chain get this done. My chain get this done. When you double it up, short Joe Louis, I need my investment.
Well, boxing smart is exactly what Bernnard Hopkins does and what he did in the last round. Shumenov coming in, trying to be aggressive, missing with his own jab, and Hopkins countering him with both a jab and a straight right hand. That is this fight in microcosm. Then what does Bernnard Hopkins do even at age 49? Because he's allowed to. He wheels off those ropes. Wasn't real fast, but he did it.
But you know what? He is the definition of the sweet sauce.
Yes, absolutely.
Combination, baby.
Bernnard Hopkins told us that don't be afraid of time unless you haven't prepared for it. Your body will not betray you if you invest in it. And I'm sure Shumenov, as part of his strategy, wanted to invest in some body work against the old man, as they say, but unable to do so. And Hopkins is just putting on another masterclass.
And in round 7, according to show stats, Hopkins, usually economical as always, throwing 30 punches. But how about this? Landed 21. So great accuracy by Bernnard Hopkins.
Break, don't punch, don't punch, don't punch. Let him go, Bernnard. Bernnard, let him go. Fight.
I'm loath to be this critical, but truly, Beibut Shumenov has had a lackluster performance in this fight.
Now moving forward, maybe hearing the words of Al Bernstein, but again, stopping in the center of the ring. Here is Landy Lara, also chiming in on Twitter, and he's talking about the squeaky wheel getting the grease, showing up at the press conference after Canelo beat Alfredo Angulo, demanding the fight. Well, he's got it. July on pay-per-view against Canelo Alvarez. Really looking forward to that intriguing battle.
Speaking of master boxers, Erislandy Lara certainly in that category. And there's the jab of Hopkins, luring Shumenov in, not getting hit, and then countering him. Well, Shumenov did sneak in that left hand.
But even still, he's landing, but he hasn't landed anything that will allow him to win this round.
Lead left hook stops Shumenov.
Right.
And Hopkins able to counter with the jab all night long.
And I think the most important and most salient point of this fight is that Shumenov has thrown maybe 1 or 2 combinations in this whole fight. Only single punches.
Right cross and the jab by Hopkins. Hot shotting, and there's another right cross. Tags the chin. Under a minute left in the 8th, and Shumenov with a rare right hand that connects. Now looking to put together a 1-2 combination. Shumenov wanting to get busier, but then backs up. Good 1-2 combination followed up by a jab as Hopkins' accuracy remains pinpoint out.
Well, and he's using lead right hands, jabs, variety of punches to do it.
Shumenov's trying. You have to give it to him. He's game.
Hopkins knows every trick in the book, and even at the age of 49, still able to utilize the footwork and avoid majority of the attack, although he's cornered momentarily by Shumenov and comes out with a left hook. Hey, check out our website where show.com/sports presents a special feature as part of the build-up to the moment when Marcos Maidana fights Floyd Mayweather for the World Welterweight Championship May 3rd on Showtime pay-per-view. Maidana Moments highlights 4 of Maidana's most spectacular moments in the squared circle. We invite you to pick your favorite Maidana moment right now. Plus, check out our boxing blog on show.com/sports. Boxing writer Tim Smith interviewed former Maidana opponents Josecito Lopez, Jesus Soto Caras, Lucas Matisse. They fought in the amateurs, and they all agree Maidana should be a formidable opponent for Money Mayweather May 3rd.
And one of the sleepers on that list, I think, is that Maidana Khan fight, which even in a losing effort was a wild fight.
Of course, Amir Khan will also be a part of the moment, fighting Luis Colasso in the co-feature. The bell. And round number 9, scheduled for 12 to unify Hopkins' IBF light heavyweight title and Shumenov's WBA light heavyweight championship. And Daniel, Shumenov needing to summon the resolve, needs to get a lot more active, and here he is starting to do so, but it's Hopkins continuing to counter very well.
Shumenov knows he came out strong. He landed a couple punches, and then we just seen a nice counter right hand from Bernard Hopkins. This is going to be an interesting round to see who wins, but will the tides turn? I'm anxious to see.
Well, you know, it's an interesting point, Daniel, because there's been a subtle shift in that Shumenov at least is getting active, but he's taking punches like that.
I mean, Hopkins may be economical, but every punch appears to land and score effectively.
And that's the major difference in this fight. But he's having fun in there. You can see his face. He's enjoying every moment inside this ring.
And swelling around the left eye and underneath the eye of Beibut Shumenov.
Interesting point. The 3 men going into the Hall of Fame this year, Joe Calzaghe, Tito Trinidad, and Oscar De La Hoya, all fought Bernard Hopkins. And Hopkins beat De La Hoya, and Trinidad lost to Joe Calzaghe. So pretty amazing that he fought all 3 of them.
And Hopkins telling us that he's in a knockout drought as he lands the right hand. His last knockout came against Oscar De La Hoya, the memorable liver shot stopping the Golden Boy. That was almost 10 years ago.
Hopkins having a very good round here.
And this is where Shumenov needs to make the fight, right, Daniel?
Absolutely. But see, one thing that I want to mention is you can hear Brother Nassim screaming at Bernard Hopkins, giving him instructions. Shumenov has no one to do that. He has no second opinion, and that's what he needs.
Absolutely, I agree 100%.
especially to make any adjustments. And the other thing is he just hasn't been active. No combinations, not pressing the pace like he should.
And you are able to see, you're witnessing one of the reasons that at 49, Bernnard Hopkins has been as successful as he has. Able to really not absorb much punishment at all. If you've ever had a chance to talk to Bernnard or listen to him, you know he has all his faculties. Very loquacious, to say the least.
Yes, he is.
Nine rounds gone here in Washington. A right and a left by Hopkins, putting a signature exclamation point on that round.
Well, a recurring theme in this fight has been the right hand of Bernnard Hopkins. Counter punches often, like that one. Sometimes lead right hands. There's one right there. Again, a lead right hand. They've come in a variety of ways. There he sets it up with the jab and gets the right hand in. And then finally, again, a lead right hand in which Shumenov's low left allows him to be hit. And Bernnard Hopkins enjoying the proceedings, as Daniel pointed out.
Focus on these combinations, bro. Focus on these combinations. Step on the gas. You ain't shaking, man.
It's almost a bizarre thing. Yep. You know, I don't remember watching a fight where a fighter is self-trained and there's no sound in the corner. It's strange.
Well, against a guy like Bernnard Hopkins, you're forced to talk to yourself whether there's a corner man or not.
Yeah, it's true. And we've made a lot out of that, but in truth, it's different, and we're not sure it's serving Beibut Shumenov well. And at this juncture, you know, we don't know how the official scoring is going, but you have to believe, even though those early rounds, as Steve Farhood aptly pointed out, were closer, Hopkins is taking control of this fight. Nothing landing by Shumenov, and Hopkins countering beautifully.
And that has to be so frustrating for a fighter. You have a guy here landing at will, B-Hop is on Shumenov, and then Shumenov coming back and can't land. It's so frustrating fighting the alien.
Well, Hopkins' philosophy, simple and effective, take less and give more. Back in 2011 when he won the WBC light heavyweight championship from Jean Pascal, becoming the oldest fighter to ever win a world title for the first time. He was hit only 70 times in a 12-round bout. Speaking of show stats, look at the power punches.
Well, that's fairly dramatic, and the percentage landed by Bernnard Hopkins is tells you the story of this fight, really.
There's a right hand to the side of the head by Shumenov. Counter rights by Hopkins. It's been the formula all night long.
I am very surprised that Shumenov has thrown so few combinations in this fight. I mean, just almost none. And when he's been at his best, he does that. And even in the fights with Campillo, though, both close decisions. Some would argue he lost both fights, even though he got a win in it. He was busy, and not in this fight.
Well, his first fight on Showtime, he dropped Thomas Kovac 3 times en route to recording the victory and earning this bout. .30 seconds left in the 10th. Now coming forward is Shumenov, but gets hit with a couple of counter right hands and a left hook to the belt line. We are headed to the championship rounds of this light heavyweight title unification bout in Washington, D.C. Speaking of light heavyweights, WBC champion Adonis Stevenson will defend his title against Andrew Fonfara Saturday, May 24th on Showtime Championship Boxing from the boxing hotbed of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And of course, the winner of this fight looking at a possible unification bout with the winner of that fight, where they will look to unify 3 of the 4 alphabet titles.
Combination, not just one, you can count it. You made him miss 20 punches over there. You don't make him pay 2 or 3 times. You make him pay with the combination. You don't have to be big. Run it, invest. When he look big, you went big in the investment. Touch him, run him, put him together. It's time to get him, baby. It's time to win. See, he know you're not going to sustain an attack.
The bell and round number 11. Bernard Hopkins in the burgundy, gold, and white, sporting the Washington Redskins colors. Beibut Shumenov in the black with gold.
You know, put this in perspective. First of all, Bernard Hopkins has been 12 rounds. Well, he's 18-5-2 in 12-round fights. Shumenov is 4-1. For a 49-year-old man to be in the 11th round, in my opinion, is pretty staggering.
And now, Hopkins may be heeding the advice of trainer Nazim Richardson, who says, you know what, pick it up. You can maybe take him out. But Shumenov also picking up the pace, and needless to say, desperate to do so, Daniel.
Shumenov is, oh, I'm sorry, Daniel. Shumenov's using the jab better now.
Lead left hand by Hopkins. Right hand drops Shumenov. Shumenov going down for the 5th time in his career. Hopkins wanting to end the knockout drought. 10 years in the making. Has a minute 45 left in this round.
Hopkins trying to set another trap to land another overhand right.
And there's a stiff jab by Hopkins. There's a left hook, and Shumenov holding on. Hopkins digging away at the body. Shumenov going upstairs with the left hand. And the crowd in Washington chanting B-Hop. And they are alive now at the Armory.
They're definitely getting his money worth tonight.
A minute left in the first of our 2 championship rounds. Another lead left hook by Hopkins. He's like a sniper in there tonight.
Well, this is the part about Bernard Hopkins. He knocks down Shumenov, doesn't go right after him as you would expect, tries to lure Shumenov in to land counter punches, and does land some, but can't quite get him down to the mat again.
30 seconds left in the 11th. Shumenov has gone down for the 5th time in his career, wanting to be resilient, trying, and now Hopkins, again, the ring general with the gamesmanship, wanting to bait Shumenov. Final 10 seconds of the round. There is only one Bernard the Alien Hopkins.
It was an overhand right from Bernard Hopkins that would put Shumenov down. The jab sets up the right hand, and down goes Shumenov. We'll take another look at it as the jab sets things up, and the right hand, which has landed all night over the low left hand of Shumenov, gets in again. Later on in the round, it looked like he might hurt Shumenov again. In this case, slipping the right hand and landing a very good counter left hook. And again, slipping punches of Shumenov.
25 years, 6 months This is his 65th professional bout. Bernnard Hopkins, truly extraordinary when it comes to his conditioning, his experience. He knows every trick in the book, physical and mental. And he continues to show that he can still outbox and outfox most of the top fighters at 175 pounds.
And even though Beibut Shumenov's performance has not been brilliant, you still have to give Bernnard Hopkins all kinds of credit for what he's accomplished so far in this fight.
Hopkins continues to tattoo Shumenov as we look at the unofficial scoring through 11 rounds.
All of us with a huge margin. Of course, it's unofficial. In fact, we're just about in agreement on this fight. Steve Farhood, Daniel Jacobs, and myself. And of course, we don't know how the judges are scoring, but that last round, a 10-8 round, should take any of the drama out of who's going to win this fight, unless Shumenov can somehow knock out Hopkins here in the 12th.
Hopkins continues to put the pressure, and now the front face lock on Beibut Shumenov. And Daniel, how amazing is it? You're on the cusp of your second shot at a title. You're mid-20s. You have overcome the worst of the worst in surviving cancer. Talk about the inspiration this 49-year-old man gives you.
You know what? I'm sitting here, I'm watching this great man, and he's giving me chills throughout my body. He's so inspirational. He just drives me to be the best that I can be. He's so superb in there, and he's breaking the barrier of what age can do. No limits to what you can do, and he's showing that tonight.
We mentioned earlier Gordie Howe in hockey, George Blanda in football, some others, but this is extraordinary. And let me mention Archie Moore, who consistently in his 40s performed very well. George Foreman won the heavyweight championship in his 40s. But Hopkins and Archie Moore, I think, are the standard bearers for performing consistently well in your 40s. Pretty staggering.
Bernnard Hopkins schooling a competitor, a fellow champion, 19 years his junior. Remember, Bernnard Hopkins wasn't supposed to make it, spent 5 years in prison in his late teens, early 20s. A warden told him that he'd be back in 6 months. He has used that to fuel the fire and put together a legendary career. With 15 seconds left in this light heavyweight title unification bout, it's another one for the books, another chapter in the illustrious career of Bernnard, and yes, he just may be the alien, Hopkins. The crowd on its feet saluting another historic performance by a man who continues to defy Father Time.
It's extraordinary. Now, you can ask yourself, how would he do against Stevenson if he were to beat Fonfara? But right now, you got to bask in this moment. You have to say, whatever the case, this man who's enjoying it has performed something amazing here. Well, the pride of Philadelphia, Bernnard Hopkins, who is being his loquacious self there, scored this knockdown. Used the jab and the straight right hand. This was a big moment in this fight, and a couple of other Philadelphia guys really enjoyed this moment. And they would be Angel and Danny Garcia, rooting for their fellow Philadelphian, and yeah, they're impressed that the 49-year-old could score the knockdown.
And I don't want to add insult to Beibut Shumenov's injury. I mentioned earlier that he'd suffered fifth knockdown of his career. It was only his second as a pro. He was a recipient of a flash knockdown against Vyacheslav Uzelkov. Hopkins has been down 4 times previously, but not tonight. Beibut Shumenov unable to solve the elder statesman of the sweet science, Bernnard Hopkins. And let's update another record.
He's kind of looking at the tote for it. I like this. He's up to 313, and who's to say? You know, we know he's probably going to have one more fight.
Well, he says he wants to be a unified, an undisputed champion at 50.
Yeah, so who knows how many, if he'll get the Emil Griffiths mark. It seems unlikely, but in the case of Bernard Hopkins, you don't want to rule anything out.
Oh, absolutely. He seems to me to get better and better as he's getting older. He's the Benjamin Button of boxing.
Those numbers demonstrate not only the defensive abilities of Bernard Hopkins, making Shumenov miss so much, but also landing well. Let's listen in.
All right, let's make it official with Jimmy Lennon Jr.
You learn something.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 12 rounds of action, we have a split decision. Judge at ringside, Dave Moretti scores about 116 to 111, Bernard Hopkins. Judge Gustavo Padilla sees about 114 to 113, Beibut Shumenov. And judge at ringside, Jerry Roth sees about 116 to 111 in favor of the winner. He is now the unified light heavyweight champion of the world, Bernard the Alien Hopkins.
So Bernard Hopkins has done it at the age of 49, becoming the oldest man to unify the light heavyweight championship, but I don't want to take away from what should be a very good moment for Bernard Hopkins.